Thanks everyone for joining us for a special edition of Oracle Apex Office Hours. My name's Joel Kallman. I'm on the Oracle Apex Product Development team, and we have a star-studded cast with us today. Since we will be talking about some product futures in today's session, I'll kindly present our safe harbor statement, which applies to anything stated during today's office hours. Our agenda for today, I'll give a recap of some of the announcements from Oracle OpenWorld, which was just last week. Marc Sewtz will provide an overview of the new features coming in Apex 19.2. Carsten Czarski, he'll provide a demonstration of the new Faceted Search report, which we think will be a killer feature for Apex, very much like interactive reports have been for Apex since 2007. Doug Gault will give a demonstration of the new team development. Anthony Rayner will demonstrate the new list of values and a lot of the other associated enhancements. And if there's time remaining, we'll open this up to general Q&A. I'll ask that people keep themselves muted and video off, and if you have any questions at any time, please feel free to ask them in the chat. Okay, let's get going. For those who don't know, Oracle OpenWorld is the annual Oracle conference held in beautiful downtown San Francisco. And there were tens of thousands of attendees from around the globe. And I and the rest of the Apex team got to meet a lot of these people. One of the things introduced at Oracle OpenWorld this year is something called Redwood. And ultimately, this is led by Hillel Cooperman. And he's the Senior Vice President of User Experience Design and really the leader of the Oracle design team. And he blogged about this recently, that he's been on this project, this mission for the past 18 months. And you'll see it in the presentation template I'm using today, the badges and signage at the conference. If you go to oracle.com, you'll see this, the software and services you use from Oracle, and eventually even Apex. And it's more than just a revised UI and set of guidelines. It's really a focus, as Hillel says, on every single interaction we as a company have with a customer. It's more than just, here's a set of templates and badges and fonts. It's really our interaction with every one of our customers. And I find this initiative transformational, and I find it refreshing. There was a lot of Apex at Oracle OpenWorld. Not only did we have our own demo area in the past, this was called Demo Grounds, and now it's called the Exchange, and this was busy throughout the conference, but there were 14 Apex related conference sessions, which for Oracle OpenWorld isn't bad. There were 4 hands-on labs. There were numerous zip labs and drop-in labs. Even during the week, David and Jason and our team did a local to San Francisco meetup where they talked about Apex and autonomous. And I saw the first Apex branded booth, somebody who actually had Apex on their signage at Oracle OpenWorld. And that was actually from our friends from Database Consulting from Poland. Every year, Andy Mendelson, who is the Executive Vice President of the Database Division, he delivers his keynote address. And in past years, we would be grateful to have a tiny mention of Apex as a mere bullet point. And this year, they didn't actually, he and Jenny Sy-Smith, who's the Vice President of Database Product Management, Jenny actually did a demo of Apex there live in front of Andy's keynote audience, which I think was great. And you can see in this picture here, this is how close I could get to the keynote. I got closed out and I had to watch it in a lobby and record it on a TV. And I think the theater that Andy was in sat close to 1,000 people. And my only view of this is enterprise data management, and the Oracle database is back. So let's get to some of the announcements. One of the things announced last week is Database 19C, the launch of this, and the fact that this will be the long-term release for the Oracle database. So it will be supported premier support through March 2023, and extended support through 2026. For anybody who's using the Oracle database, any of the earlier versions, another nice thing is that you can directly upgrade to database 19C from 11, 12CR1, 12C release 2, 18C. You can go straight to this long-term support release. And I borrowed this slide from someone else. When you look at these small dot version numbers under each of these major release labels, that's how effectively you can think of these versions of the Oracle database. Another big announcement last week was the de-support of the non-container database architecture. So if you're not using multi-tenant, you're using the non-container database architecture. And it's funny because I remember Tom Kite telling me probably, I don't know, 5 years ago that this is going to be the direction for the database division, and I can see that it's actually here. So beginning in database 20C, we will only support the container database architecture. But what's nice about this is even if you're not licensed for multi-tenant, that beginning with database 19C, remaining within the bounds of the license, that you're able to create 3 pluggable databases of any type. And this is included already in the 19C license guide. You'll see that it's mentioned there. And if you know Mike Dietrich from Oracle, he had a blog post about this as well, which I think is great. For those of you who aren't on social media, the big event for us was on Monday night during Larry Ellison's keynote. And countless people over the years, they've stressed how important it is for, in some small way, for Larry Ellison to mention Apex somewhere, anywhere. And this year, it finally happened. So not only was there an inclusion of Apex as a bullet point, but Larry mentioned it by name and he pronounced it correctly. So that's a bonus. And this was done in the context of a transformational development from Oracle called the Always Free Oracle Autonomous Database. And this includes Apex and SQL Developer and Oracle REST Data Services and machine learning out of the box and free. This was the big announcement for us at Oracle OpenWorld, not only for the Apex community, but also really, I believe, for the company as a whole. As a lot of people know, we've offered apex.oracle.com on the internet since 2002. And if you make it easy for people to try your technology, they'll come. Today, we get close to 3,000 new requests a week on apex.oracle.com. And it's just been on a complete ramp upwards. But apex.oracle.com is limited, and it's not real cloud. This is real. So the free tier is perpetually free. You can see those words perpetually when you sign up for the Oracle Cloud free tier, and it's free for as long as you use it. A common question that we get is, can someone use this for their production use? And I contacted a product manager yesterday, and he didn't believe that there was anything in the license that prohibited that. But keep in mind, there's no SLA, there's no guaranteed uptime, there's no support, but it is free, as in beer. And in the past, Oracle might have been a bit miserly when it comes to letting people use our technology for free. If anybody ever used the original version of XE, the Database Express Edition, that was a stripped down version of the Oracle database. The latest version of XE is full featured, and this autonomous database is full featured and includes countless options. As Larry Ellison said, this is our best stuff. It's not stripped down. And so I see this as a huge enabler for the Apex community, for new developers, for hobbyists, for user groups, for meetup groups, for really anyone. This is Oracle's data center footprint today. And Oracle's goal for the next 15 months is to launch 20 new data center facilities, a new data center region every 23 days. That will be 17 commercial and 3 government centers in California, in Chile, Montreal, Melbourne, Amsterdam, Singapore, and on, which I think is and will be an amazing achievement. I included the URL here for all of the data regions today. And as some noted on social media, I think I even saw this morning, the free tier is now available in Toronto. You should also note when you go to this page and look at the data regions for Oracle Cloud, that the always free cloud services are listed first. They aren't buried under some link. So I've been at Oracle a long time, and I see all of this as a terrific confluence of events with a change in mindset from the company, the development of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Gen 2, the invention of the Oracle Autonomous Database, and for us, Apex. It's all really coming together, and that's why I feel that Oracle, the company, is executing at a very high level now. You can go to this URL to learn more and sign up for the Oracle Cloud free tier. And just yesterday, or the day before, I convinced Todd Botker. Todd is the Director of Product Management, and he's been one of the key drivers of the free Autonomous Database. And we will have yet another special edition of Apex Office Hours. And this will be on October 16th, and this will be the Oracle Cloud free tier for the Apex community. So any questions you have that we can't answer today, Todd will be able to address those. And I think that's it, and I'm going to hand it off to Marc. Oh, and Marc, you're muted.
All right, thank you, Joel. Let's try that again. Can you hear me now?
Perfectly.
Awesome, thank you. All right, I would like to give a quick update on what we've planned for Apex 19.2, our new features, before we get into demonstrations of some of these features. But before I get there, I do want to point out our, am I sharing my screen?
Yes, you are.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so I do want to point out the Apex 19.2 early adapter that we have already available. This was launched on September 13th, just prior to OpenWorld. So if you would like to participate and try out our next release, there's a hosted beta, hosted early adapter available at tryapexnow.com. In the first 200 weeks, oh, that's bad. 2 weeks. We got 800 plus workspaces, and we're getting a lot of feedback. We got 135 feedback entries so far, so thank you everybody who participated and who's sending us feedback. Please continue to provide feedback. We welcome every feedback and issues that you're reporting to us. If you have submitted something and we have follow-up questions, please take a look at the feedback app. And let me quickly go there so you know what I'm talking about. There is my browser. Nope. There you go. So again, our EA is on tryapexnow.com, and I logged into my workspace there. So if you are in your workspace on TryApex Now, there's a little icon up here in the upper right-hand corner for feedback. When you click there, you can leave us feedback on all kinds of topics, preferably on some of our new features. And then you can take a look at the feature that's already been the feedback that's already been coming in. We have links here to the new features. So if you want to read up on what you should be focusing on, what are the new features that we're introducing, you can take a look at this list. We also have a list. Oh, I'm sorry, you're not seeing my whole desktop. All right, so that should hopefully work. Stop share. Sorry. I'm sharing my screen here. All right, never mind. I'm just going to stick with this. So there is when you open up this feedback dialog, you're going to be taken back to this page here that shows you all the feedback that has been submitted so far. So if you have submitted feedback, if there's a link like additional information requested, please go there and take a look if you have any follow-up questions. All right, so with that, let me go back to my slides. Sorry for all this back and forth. So please go to Try Apex now, sign up for Workspace, provide your feedback, look at our follow-up, and please note at this stage, we can't do any major changes anymore. So if you come across any bugs, we're still going to be able to accommodate them and fix them. But if you have any suggestions for how things should be done differently, this will have to wait for a future release. We welcome your feedback, but please note any major feature requests are not going to be able to get into 19.2 anymore. All right, moving on. So this is the list of features that we'd like you to review and test. Faceted Search, the expanded shared LOVs, enhanced popup LOVs, the new team development, REST-enabled interactive grids, data loading into existing tables, and anything that may be related to our JavaScript library upgrades. Now let me get into some of those in a little more detail. Before I get there though, if I talked to a lot of customers at OpenWorld, and many of you are still on versions 4.2, 5.0, 5.1. So if you are looking at our new versions, you may have noticed that we shifted to a year-based versioning scheme like many other Oracle products. So we're talking about 19.2 today. Our previous releases were Apex 18.1, 18.2, and 19.1. Each one of these releases had its own schema, 18.01, 18.02, and so on. They came out in May and September of last year, then in March of this year, and then later this year we are planning to release Apex 19.2. There's a little bit of a shift of what we've done in the past, where we had 4.1, 4.2, 5.0, 5.1, and released maybe every 18 months or 2 years. Now we're going to have 2 releases every year. And in between, we're no longer going to have quarterly patches. Instead, we're going to have PSE bundles. So if you're on 18.1, 18.2, or 19.1, you can go to Oracle support and find our PSE bundles there. A PSE bundle is a collection of bug fixes that have been implemented for severe bugs since any of these releases. And you can download the PSE bundle and get all the bug fixes since, say, 19.1 got released in a single file and apply them all at once. And we keep these PSE bundles up to date, meaning as we fix more bugs, they're going to be added to the PSE bundles. So keep an eye on those and install them if you have any bugs that you'd like to fix. All right, briefly on the new features in Apex 19.2. One of the, I guess, maybe undervalued features every time we release Apex, a new version of Apex, is our upgrade of JavaScript libraries. In Apex 19.1, we include Oracle Jet 6.1, jQuery 3.3.1, and jQuery UI 1.12. This will all be updated in 19.2 to Oracle Jet 7.2, jQuery 3.4.1, jQuery UI is still the same. And we also update a number of other open source libraries that I've included here. And this seems to be just a check mark on our release schedule, but it's actually a big deal. A lot of effort goes into getting these JavaScript libraries up to date with each release. There are always going to be CVs and other things found in all the libraries. So it's important to keep this up to date. And I believe Apex is one of the very few frameworks that actually ensure that all dependent libraries are always going to be kept up to date. So a lot of effort goes into that that you benefit from by upgrading to the latest versions of Apex. All right, Carsten's going to talk about faceted search in much more detail. That's going to be our main features for Apex 19.2. It's a powerful way for you to create reports. Unlike interactive reports, you'll have all your filters or facets exposed to you here on the left-hand side or right-hand side. And it will make it much easier for you to build these kind of e-commerce style reports. Over the last 3-4 releases, we put a lot of effort into opening up Apex to remote data sources. We introduced what we call REST-enabled SQL and web sources. And I'm kind of taking a step back here to Apex 18.1 because this is where we started this process and it's still ongoing. What that means is that by now, most of our components support our new data sources now, local database as in the past, including tables, views, and SQL queries, and pure SQL functional turning queries, in addition to new REST-enabled SQL and web sources. So what that does, it allows you to connect your Apex apps to remote data sources. Web sources means any kind of REST API, third-party REST APIs, or served REST APIs, Oracle apps served up REST APIs. So any kind of REST API can now be integrated with Apex. And REST-enabled SQL means you're able to connect to other remote Oracle databases through ports. And we've started introducing this in Apex 18.1 with reports and calendars and charts, which was read-only. In 19.1, we added support for forms being able to write data back to REST APIs. And then in Apex 19.2, we're adding support for interactive grids. So when you're building an interactive grid, you can now also tap into remote data sources like REST APIs and REST-enabled SQL. Another feature that supports REST-enabled SQL and web sources are our new enhanced list of values. This was a change to the shared list of values, which Anthony will talk about more. In addition to supporting remote data sources, we are also supporting multiple columns now. So it's not just display and return value. You can have multiple display values now, and that is useful and important for our new pop-up list of values, which now support displaying multiple columns, like in my example here, the department number and the department name and location being the same pop-up. All right, and then lastly, new data load. In Apex 19.1, we introduced a new data load feature, allowing you to upload native XLS files and many other data types using drag and drops and file upload. It works much better than in the past. It works in the background, so you can upload large data sets. And it also supports a new Apex Data Parser API that Carsten blogged about in the past. That makes it much easier for you to build your own data upload functionality. And then in 19.2, the new feature is being able to use this feature to load into existing tables. In 19.1, was limited to just new table creation. Now you can also load into existing tables. All right, with that, I want to hand it back and hand it over to the next presenter. Just one more point, apexoracle.com. That's your address to read more about Apex, look at tutorials, sign up for a free workspace there, and just learn more about Apex. All right, thanks everyone, and handing it off.
Okay, so hope everybody can hear me. Carsten here. Hello, everybody. And Marc already introduced Faceted Search with a few words, and I will now, in the next 10 minutes, give you a quick demonstration on Faceted Search. And I will create basically 2 Faceted Search reports. We will start with a very, very simple example by just uploading a file. And that is some data, which is actually even available public. That's some Airbnb data. Actually, the same demo was done at OpenWorld. I will give it a little bit of a different twist, but we will start with the same data set, right? And you can see there's this CSV file. I loaded it into that numbers application on Mac. And so now I've shared my desktop as well. So here is my the Excel sheet, which contains a few thousand rows of data. And the first step is we will create an application on top of that file. And let's see what the Create Application Wizard and Apex 19.2 are able to do for us. So I will start with creating a new application. And we will create an application from file. So we can drag and drop the CSV file to Apex. And now let's pick a table, and I will just call it Airbnb. And this is a rather new schema, so it should work out of the box. So a little bit less than 8,000 rows are now loaded into the table. Next step is to create an application, and the Create Application Wizard in Apex will provide us a jump start, right? So that's a very nice idea always to try this out, especially with new releases, because based on an existing table or some uploaded files, Apex applies a standard set of features, and you can very quickly see what's possible, and you can see how new features in Apex can be used, right? And this is what we will get. We will get a homepage, of course. We will get a dashboard page with a few charts. We will get an interactive report with a forum and a calendar page. I won't get too much into those. We will focus on the faceted search page we will get, okay? We could also enable more features for our application. Built-in activity reporting, look and feel selection, an about page, and much more stuff, but that's not focused for today. Feel free to try it out on tryapexnow.com to find out how these things work. But now we clearly want to focus on faceted search. So let's create the application. And note, I didn't type in anything so far. I typed in the table name, but besides the table name, I didn't type in anything. I just added a few mouse clicks. And I got an application with 8 pages now. So let's just run that application right now. And we will have to sign in, of course. We will see the home page, and the page of interest is the search page. And this is faceted search in action. You will see a classic report, and we will see the facets. And that's the idea of faceted navigation. You have, when we click or when we pick one of these, one items of these facets, so let's think about the neighborhood facet. So this CSV file basically contains records about Airbnb flats in San Francisco. So you see attributes are the neighborhood, the room type, price, and minimum nights, number of reviews, and much more. And the idea of faceted search is when I pick something here, that the report, the result set, is automatically filtered and refreshed. And also the other facet, you can see the counts here, the counts are also refreshed, right? So whenever we change something here, we get instant feedback on what that means for the other filters, right? So if I'm now interested in Bernard Heights, so I now can see, okay, there is 250 entire homes, 150 private rooms, and 1 shared room. So let's filter for the private rooms. And again, the counts changed, and we can see what's still available. So I want to have a medium price, so let's go to that range. And then I'm interested in the offerings with as many reviews as possible. So let's go for the minimum 50 reviews. So, and then I'm interested in just 3 nights. And here is my filtered subset. So by walking through these facets, I'm able to filter my result more and more down. And all these interactions, so when we change a facet, the report refreshes, the counts are recalculated, the counts are calculated at all, right? That's all something which Apex does for you, and you don't have to worry about. And that's the value of this new feature. Apex does all the low-level work for you, and at a very high level, you can use faceted search in your application and configure the facets. So let's have a look how this looks like, right? So let's have a look into page number 3 in Page Designer. And come on. There we go. So we can see our classic report, and this is a normal classic report. It reports on the Airbnb table, and when you look into these columns here, it's a plain vanilla classic report as you are using them all of the time. And here we can see that faceted search region, which contains all our facets, right? So when we look again at our page, and now we want to tweak this a bit, right? Let's now clear all these filters, and you can already see it's a bit cumbersome, right? I would like to have it a bit more easy to start over. So that's something we can enable at the faceted search region. And when we go to the region attributes of our faceted search region, we have that attribute show current facets, and I'm turning that to yes. So, and then start again. And now you can see that we have that area here where our current filters or facet settings are shown. So I'm doing this again, and you can see I see my current filters here. I want to start over. Okay, clear it all, right? Then when I look at the minimum nights here and the number of reviews, that's a bit odd, right? You've seen that Apex, for the number of reviews, this is clearly a number column which contains the values from 0 to whatever. And Apex automatically created buckets for this and created what we call a range facet, right? So this distribution over those 5 buckets is something which Apex calculated automatically. And Apex does a best guess, a best effort to get as good buckets as possible. Of course, you can change this, right? So let's have again a look into Page Designer. And when we have a look at the minimum nights, we can see this is a range facet. So let's have a look in the LOV. So Faceted Search uses known Apex components here. And this is a static value LOV. And you can see there is a display value and a return value, all well-known stuff, right? And you can start changing those facets right now. So I will do at least this one because if it's less than 2, it's obviously 1 minimum night, right? Same is for the number of reviews. If we have less than 1 review, we probably have no reviews, right? So, and of course, these things can also be changed, right? So let's assume that those buckets, that 20, I don't like that boundary, so I want to have the boundary of 25. Save that and run again. And now my facets here look a bit different, right? And here the boundary switched from 25 from 20 to 25, right? Just one more thing with this faceted search, we can see the neighborhood has quite a few selections here. And we would like to have some additional filtering on top of this, right? So let's go back to Page Designer again, go to the neighborhood facet and turn on client-side filtering. And I think what we also, that gives it a bit of a different twist. So if a neighborhood doesn't have any matches because we filtered them out somewhere else, I want to show them at the bottom and I want to disable them. So, and let's also always put the selected to the first, right? So the neighborhood facet will behave a little bit different now. So let's think about Chinatown, and you see I selected it, it goes to the top. I can now do some client-side filtering, Bay, right? So to have it a bit more easy to work with this maybe longer list. And if I'm now expanding that list, I can still see all these entries. Let's now narrow this down again. So we want to see only shared rooms. And you can see the neighborhoods with no shared rooms available will become disabled and will move to the end. So we can always, this is some more communication to the end user. There are neighborhoods, but there is no match to this. If that's too busy for your needs, okay, let's switch that back to hide again. And we can see that these are now not visible anymore, right? So that was a very brief introduction on how to create an initial faceted search and to play with the controls a bit. Before handing over, I would like to create another faceted search page to give you an impression how it works if you have a table, right? You don't want to upload something, you have a table and you have an existing application, how to add faceted search there. So no, there is nothing easier than that. We create a new page and the faceted search is among the report pages. And here is our faceted search. So my second faceted search page. Oh man. Okay. And now I have to pick a table as always with the create report page wizards. And I will pick the employees table from one of the sample schemas. And we will also see a proposal on the facets right now. So Apex, and and if you ask yourself, how did it come that Apex created those 5 facets we just have seen? Why not for the other columns? Here's the answer, right? Apex knows about data distributions, about minimum, maximum values, about distinct values, and Apex generates facets based on this information, right? And it does the same thing here. So a few columns are not usable for facets, so you can't choose them here. And others are good candidates. And let's go for the salary here and not for the commission %, so we can control this a bit. And then finally create our faceted search page. And again, we have the page designer page with the facets region, the classic report region. And the nice thing about this is when we run this page, it's the same view again. Those facets for job in the employees table, this is actually a foreign key column. And that foreign key column goes to a lookup table. And you can see these lookup tables, these foreign keys are all resolved for you. So the facet has the right LOV, uses the right LOV, the report column uses the right LOV, and you can even search on the table rows, and that search does correct searches on what you see in the classic report. Try it out. So go to tryapexnow.oracle.com and try the feature out. We are still interested in your feedback. And that's all I have for now. And I'm handing over to Doug.
Straight to me. All right, so let me share my desktop here quickly. All right, so I'm going to talk about the new team development. And I'm starting off here with a pretty empty workspace. I've got, this is, for example, if you've just provisioned a workspace, I'm going to show you what you see when you first come in. Team development sits in the same exact position it was before. It's just simplified and kind of foreshortened. We tried to make things a little easier, fewer knobs to twist and turn, so that it's a more straightforward experience for you. When you first go into team development in a portioned workspace, the very first time, you'll see a welcome screen to say, hey, we can set up some sample data for you if you want, to kind of show you how to use this. This is a direction we're trying to go in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different sections in Apex to try to make the experience a little bit easier for everyone. So Apex team development, we kind of reimagined it to work a little bit better. It's more conversational, less fragmented, and it basically uses the idea of an issue and then classifications on those on the issue itself by doing things like adding labels to it and adding milestones to it, etc. So here we can see that we can install a set of sample labels, a set of sample templates, a set of sample milestones, choose whether to install those or not. And if you're running multilingual, you can choose which language to install those things in. For the sample labels, the labels are used to classify an issue. We'll see that in just a second. Templates are quick fill items for when you're creating an issue, kind of a template. Or when you're responding or commenting on an issue, you can template those responses as well. So let's go ahead and leave all those selected. And we can also, when this gets created, it will automatically create a sample issue for us as well that kind of shows you exactly what you can do with the issue section. Right away, you can see that the issue is set up in such a way that you can kind of see what the issue is, the issue number, when it was opened, who it was opened by. And as you go through, we'll see that as we add classifications to it or labels or milestones, etc., these will show up on this home page as well. You not only have this cards view, but you can actually go to the data view of this as well and filter just like you would with any normal interactive grid. Before I drill down into the issue itself, I want to go to the individual items that you can control. We've got the ability to manage the labels, and labels are grouped into label groups. The default or the sample data that we've loaded here kind of breaks things down into several different groups. You've got categories, functional areas, level of importance, level of effort, and progress. You can see 3 of these have little stars beside them. That means that these groups are exclusive. Exclusive groups means that only one label from this group can be assigned to any issue at a given time. So if you assign one and then assign another from the group, it'll replace the one that's there. So let's have a quick look at, for instance, the level of importance. You can see that we've got a set of levels, the order in which we want them to display. Each group itself can be assigned a color so that it shows up in that color, and every label within that group will show up in that same color. You can decide whether a group is exclusive or not here and give it the group a name. From milestones, these are just important dates that you get or that you can use to track issues if you want. You can set a date for that, and each milestone tracks what things are assigned to it and whether it's opened or closed against that. Dates that are within 2 weeks show up as yellow. Dates that are past show up as red. And dates that are further out than 2 weeks will show up just as a normal item here, or in the issues report, they actually show up as green. We talked about templates as well. You have 2 different types of templates for creating issues and for responding to issues. As with anything in team development, anytime you do a comment, you can use Markdown syntax to set that up. You can, by all means, you can just use standard text, but Markdown is supported here, and you can see here that you've got a preview of that as well for your templates. Templates here can be assigned to either an issue or response. This dictates where it shows up. So we'll see when we create a new issue that only the issue templates will show up in that set. All right, for now, if we go back to the issues, we can see that we have this issue that was created. If we click on it, it will take us to what we call the issue timeline. The issue timeline shows from the beginning to the end of time, from basically least recent to most recent at the bottom, the things that have happened to this. The example issue that we created is pretty big, but we do that to show you all the different types of things that you can do with Markdown, including tables, lists, code, quotes, and indented text as well. As we go through this, we can do things from either the actions menu. For instance, if you're the owner or an admin, you can edit the title or edit the issue text. From here, you can set assignees, set labels, set milestones. You can associate an issue with an app and a page. You can mark it as duplicate of another. If you're the owner or an admin, you can delete it, or you can close the issue as well. We have the quick picks on the side here as well to be able to assign issues to people, create labels, or assign labels to it, or assign milestones to it. Let's do some assignees first. I'm going to assign Hillary and Christian to this, and I apply it, and immediately you can see that refreshes, and I see those assignees here. But also at the bottom of this, it gives me an event that says that I assigned Christian and Hillary to this issue 1 second ago. So it keeps track of all the events that happen in here. Let's do some labels. Let's say that this is an enhancement request for the UI, and it is of normal importance, and it's going to be a moderate level of effort. We aren't going to say any progress on here. I can see the difference between inclusive, I could choose many of these, or exclusive, I can only choose one of these. These are the different types of groups. And as you define groups, if you want to change these, you can go change these in the back end. You can add more groups, and they'll show up automatically in this set. Once again, if I apply the changes here, it automatically refreshes. It automatically shows the event down at the bottom to see that I actually added those things. So you can see a record over time of how they were classified, when they were added, when they were removed from certain classifications, etc. Again, with milestones, the same thing. You can see the milestones that are here. By default, we only show milestones that have a status of open, but you can actually show closed milestones as well if you want to, and assign things to that. I'm going to assign it to a UI freeze and apply. Again, the UI freeze is farther than 2 weeks out, so it appears as green. This code freeze is less than 2 weeks, so it shows as yellow. If there was one that had already passed, it would show up as red. All these events come down at the bottom. Again, we can make a comment at the bottom, and here's where you can select the templates for the comment. Let's say that this is a known issue. We can say that it's in bug DB. The bug ID is, and the URL to the bug is you know, something like this. And since I'm not going to add any comments, I can delete that. I can also add an attachment, and I can either just drop something here, or I can choose a file. Let me choose a file real quick, and I will choose an image file. Let's just do a painting, whatever it is. It uploads it, and it automatically puts a reference, a markdown style reference into this. So when I preview it, I can, oh, that should work. I should be able to see that as a preview. But when I comment it, it will definitely show up. And so I can see the item in there. Other things that you can do, you can see the little 3 dots here. If you are an admin or an owner, I can edit the text of something, whether it be the issue or the text of a comment, if I'm the owner of it. If I'm an admin, I can hide a comment. This may be if the comment is no longer relevant or if it was inappropriate. As an admin, can go and hide that comment, and it shows up that that this comment has been hidden. I can see, if I'm an admin, I can explode what was hidden and just display it again, or I can go back and unhide it as well, now that I've got that. Another thing that is interesting here is that owners, assignees, or subscribers can get notifications about the things that they're interested in. If I go up to the top and look at the notifications button, that takes me to my profile and shows me all the notifications that that have been created for the things that I am interested in. The very, very first time that you either create something, are assigned to something, or subscribe to something, you are basically subscribed to everything. So if you want to alter that, you have to go into your notification preferences and say, okay, you know, I really don't want to receive emails. I just want to see it here in the UI. And I'm only interested in, let me get rid of everything else. I'm only interested in new comments and a status change. So this will only, once this is set, anything new that shows up here will only be the things that you're interested in. If you've got it set to email you, it'll email you either immediately, hourly, or daily summaries. But it'll only email you when the things you've decided that you're interested in actually happen. Another thing that you can do is over here in this same section, in the issues section, you can see all the issues that either you own, you're assigned to, or you're subscribed to. So there you can see things like the labels that were added to it, the milestones that were added, the people that are assigned to it, and the number of comments against that. And that will also show up at the main level, same kind of thing. You can drill down on any of this stuff. Clicking on the title will take you to the timeline. Clicking on the owner will take you to their specific list, so you can see the items that they're listed in. If it's another user, for instance, let's go back to this and I look at Christian, I won't be able to see or control the way that he gets notifications. I won't be able to see his notifications, but I do get to see the things that he is either assigned to, owns, or subscribed to.
Hey, Doug, sorry, this is Joel. We probably need to conclude this in a minute, if you don't mind, please.
Yeah, sure. I got one more section, basically. Utilities. There are two. There's a set of utilities that allow you to manage certain things, manage the deleted issues. When you delete an issue, it doesn't get deleted permanently. You can go back and restore it. You can do things like view files, purge some of the data, update assignees, and whatnot. Some of these are only available to workspace admins. Others are available to everyone. Things like managing milestones, templates, labels. and viewing files. That's available to everybody. Hopefully this is a fairly straightforward process. It's not very complex. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, but the user interface was designed to be as easily to use as possible. So that's it. Thanks. And I'm trying to find the stop share. There we go. And over to Anthony.
Anthony, you're on mute.
Thanks, David. Okay. Thanks, Doug. Thanks, David. So we're going to talk about the new list of values support. It's really twofold. So there's a new shared list of value infrastructure. So it's there's a number of enhancements that are available now with the new shared list of values. And then also playing into that is a greatly improved and updated popup LOV item type. And the popup LOV item type is kind of automatically upgraded when you upgrade to Apex 19.2. But there are some additional features of the popup LOV that you'll need to extend current list of values for, such as multiple columns. But we'll come on to that momentarily. Okay, so just to show you quickly, here is a pop-up list of values in Apex 19.1. So probably you're all familiar with this. So it's basically it's quite slow to load because it loads the whole page behind the scenes. Even though it's loaded in a modal dialog, it does load the whole page. And it does that every time you open the pop-up. So it kind of refetches all of the data every time. You have to hit enter to search. You couldn't search as you type. And it was just single column layout. So you could only really show one display value. And a much requested enhancement to Apex for many years is the ability to display multiple columns in list of values. So if we switch over to 19.2 and have a look at exactly the same example, we can see it's using a dialog inline. It's just loading the data, so it's quicker to load. And if you reopen the dialog, it's cached. So there's no. It's much quicker if you need to keep reopening the dialog, or if you're entering multiple values currently. You need to reopen the dialog, and it's very quick to do so because it only needs to go to the database the first time, or if you request more rows. So you can type in a search. It's got good keyboard support so that you can hit enter, up and down cursor keys to navigate up and down the list. So yeah, so you automatically get the new look and feel by virtue of upgrading to Apex 19.2. But there's a great deal of other functionality available by turning a few switches and making a few additions to your applications. So let's start with creation. So we're going to create a new pop-up list of values. To do this, we need to first create a new list of values. So we're in shared components, create list of values. We'll say emp demo. So this next page is new in 19.2, and it basically allows you to select from a number of different data sources. So Marc mentioned earlier that you can now define list of values based on either local table-based. You could only ever do SQL-based or PL/SQL returning SQL before. Now you can just select a table, REST, or web source references, assuming those have already been defined in your workspace. So for now, we'll just create a local. We can just select the table. You can see here we're using a pop-up LOV, which has benefited from the update. Okay, that's taking a while. There we go. So we've just selected the table. We go to the last page of the wizard, and now we can define the return and display column declaratively. Previously in Apex 19.1 and before, you'd have to define the SQL query in a certain format, the first column being the display column, the second column being the return column. but now it's declarative. So you can just do it. You can pick a generic data source and then select the appropriate display and return columns. And then plugins and item types will basically use those in terms of what they display and return, rather than just rely on the SQL syntax. Apex makes its best guess at the return and display columns, but you can adjust them if you need to. So we'll create that. And we can go in and have a look at that new list of values. On this page, sorry, my instance has slowed down a bit, I'm afraid, but so on this page you can see the same data source defined. There are some additional attributes available, which we'll come on to momentarily, but we can see here we've got the return and display column. There's a default sort column, and there's some additional attributes, for example, the group column, if the item type supports it, icon column, if the item type supports it. So there's a great deal of additional metadata that you can define with your list of values that some of the Apex item types support, and plugins will also have the option of playing into this new metadata and being able to leverage some of this metadata in your own plugins. Okay, so we'll go back to our page, and we're going to create the item based on that list of values. Okay, so we just create a page item. We'll select popup LOV. We can see here there's a number of new options available. So you can choose the display type, whether it's inline or dialogue based. Previously in Apex, it was always a dialogue that popped up. Now you can display it right in line, and we'll show you that in a moment. You can define how the data is fetched, whether or not we allow multiple values, whether we allow manual entry, the search as you type option. So instead of having to hit enter to perform a search, you can just do search as you type, and you can optionally define a minimum number of characters. So if you want to enforce that people have to define a minimum of, say, 2 or 3 characters to cut down the sort of the scope of the search, the data being searched, then you can do that. So we'll just say search as you type and inline. Oh, I need to define the list of values, of course, and that's as it always has been in Apex. So we just select the new list of values, save, and then we can run the page. So this is the new popup LOV. It's inline, so it displays aligned with the item type. It's search as you type, so as you type, it will filter the results. And there we go, nice. So what we can do now is make it multi-column. And in order to do that, you actually need to change the list of values that it's based on. So this has caused a bit of confusion in the EA feedback, where we did previously allow you to define a column in a query in Page Designer with multiple columns. But actually that won't work. You do need to use a shared list of values currently in order to benefit from the multi-column support for the new popup LOV. And actually in development, we have locked that down in Page Designer to not allow you to enter a query with more than 2 columns. So hopefully that will be less confusing in the final release. So we go back to share components, list of values, and we can go back to the same list of values. And what we need to do now is go into this additional display columns, and we can select some additional display columns. We then get the additional display metadata created. That's configurable, so you can say whether or not things are visible, the headings that are used by the item type, whether it's searchable, so whether the Apex APIs underneath the scenes use these columns to search, and also an optional format mask. If we apply those changes, we can rerun the page. So we haven't touched the popup LOV now, but we now get the multi-column support. There are other options as well. You can define a group column, an icon column, different sorting options. You also have the ability to sort by the column headers in these dialog in the pop-up. So a great deal of functionality and highly customizable. I'm aware of time, so I'll just show you a couple of final examples, hopefully just to whet your appetite for the new pop-up LOVs. So this is an example on a web source. It pulls in movie data. So it's using the web source reference in shared components, and then there's a list of values defined on that web source reference. And it allows you to search for movie data. It's hard-coded to search for Star Trek, but we could change it to something else. And we can also show the multi-column support here. So multi-column support, remote data source, and also we're able to return additional items. So in the list of values definition, there is an additional outputs attribute, and that allows you to return some of the other column values from the pop-up. So here we can just see we've got additional outputs, and we're defining the overview column is going into P3 movie overview page item. In the future, we hope to make that more declarative, but currently you have to use this syntax to return these items. So yeah, again, easy to configure and highly customizable. I had one final example, which is basically just using the form and report on a remote REST-enabled SQL reference. And what was missing when we introduced that functionality was the ability to define list of values on the same remote data source. So now you can see here this job column is selecting the distinct job records in this employee table, which is referenced via a REST-enabled SQL reference. And it's working off the same REST-enabled SQL reference. So yeah, that's now possible with the new data source aware list of values support. Okay, I think that concludes my demo. Sorry for overrunning by a couple of minutes. And I'll like to hand back to Marc Sewtz for if there's any time for questions.
Well, thanks, Anthony. And thanks everybody for staying on. It's already 11:02, so I'm just going to wrap it up here quickly. I just want to get to some of the questions on the chat, so I'm not going to take it personal if you have to drop, but let me just go through some of these. Starting out, there was a question about the free tier and the always free. So as you sign up for the free tier, you will be prompted for a credit card. That is just to verify your identity. You're not going to be charged unless you actually sign up for paid service, and after 30 days, you can keep using your free services. There was also an question about who is doing the update of Autonomous to new versions of Apex and when that's happening. So for the time being, that's controlled by Oracle. So as we release 19.2, some point after that, Autonomous will be updated to 19.2 as well. And question about the release date for 19.2. We can't give out any exact release dates. It's planned for this year. There was a question about jQuery and jQuery UI. We will continue using it. It is part of Apex. It's very closely integrated. It's also jQuery is also part of Oracle Jet. And we actually ship with the version that ships with Oracle Jet. So this will remain in the product. There was a question about sample apps and packaged apps, and Mike gave some answers to that. So in Apex 20.1, we are planning to have a new generation of productivity apps coming. And we will also keep our sample apps up to date to showcase any new features that we are introducing. In the context of faceted search, there was a question about whether we are going to consolidate our reports at some point. For the time being, no, we're going to keep interactive grids and interactive reports and all the other ones. Eventually, we hope that interactive grid will be a superset of interactive reports, but interactive reports is going to remain until that's actually the case. So no worries there. We moved some mobile report types like reflow table and column toggle to the universal theme just to kind of keep supporting these. Eventually, we hope to have this reflow and column toggle functionality be part of things like interactive grids or interactive reports. And the new faceted search is currently actually based on classic reports, right? The reporting portion of it is a classic report. And the plan is in the future to support additional components to be controlled by the faceted search region. So it's two regions, one's a faceted search, one is the reporting region. So in the future, you could potentially control interactive reports or charts or other, or calendars or other data-driven components. There was a question about authentication and social media authentication. We actually do support OAuth and OpenID. That includes support for things like Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. And when you look at our office hours history, a couple of months ago, I did a presentation on using social authentication with Apex. So you can see how that works there. And there should still be a sample up for that, available for download in that office hours as well. Question about forms migration. No plans to introduce any new automated forms migration tool. We strongly believe the best way is to really rebuild your UI, but to do this based on existing table structures from your forms apps. But we are adding, and we have been adding functionality like interactive grids and master detail that are targeted partially at forms customers. Then question about the new team development. So the new team development will be the team development in Apex. We will continue expanding it in the future. The old team development, legacy team development, is still in the product. You can find it under team development utilities and then look for deprecated team development legacy. We named it that to indicate it's going away, and will be going away in 20.1. So it's still there to kind of ease the transition, but it will go away in the next release. And that is all I wrote down during the chat. David, do you have any more questions that came in?
There's a lot of questions coming in, but most of them have been answered. So I think we can wrap it up.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. And thanks everybody for attending. And please come back again in a month and be here for Todd's office hours on the free cloud and autonomous.
And just one thing, the recording will be available in a couple of days so that you can watch it again if you choose to.
All right, thank you.